Guys, we're live on location in sunny Miami. Spring break!
Boy, it sure is hot out here.
Woo-wee!
In the sun?
Oh, look at that rolling surf. Crashing gently. Dude, you know
Have you ever been to such a beautiful beach?
Dude, you know what I'm
What about the babes?
I was about to say, you know what I'm doing after this review is over? I'm going to get me some beach bunnies.
You know what the thing is, though?
Damn.
Ladies love video game reviews.
Yeah, absolutely.
They always have. Mm-hmm. But why would we come to Miami? Video games aren't made there.
No. Only Cubans.
Cubans are made in Miami?
I gotta imagine.
I think you mean big butts.
Well, Cubans are being made there. Why not?
Why wouldn't they be made in Cuba?
Because they'd also come here.
Yeah, they come here.
You don't think they do a little bump button once they get here?
If you're born in Miami, you're a Miamian. You're not a Cuban.
I think you can be a Cuban Miamian. Anyway, guys.
That's not important. What is important is that we played.
And I can't believe we had it in the budget to fly us all the way down here to Miami just so we could do it live on location.
It's great. And expensive.
Yeah.
We actually had a recommendation from one of our wonderful fans to play this series of games, and we would not have done so had it not been for that fan. I think it's Crom.
Honestly, it's a little too hot.
Are you going to take off your shirt?
No, it's just a little too hot outside.
Anyway, yeah. So we were suggested to play it.
It was recommended to us, and as we always do, we took the recommendation and we ran with it.
Yeah, this is one of the benefits of being world-class game reviewers is you get suggestions every once in a while.
Everyone's just like, yo. I'm D-Marks, guys.
I'm Tom C, everybody.
You
guys know that.
We gotta remember.
Yeah, that's true.
We get recommendations all the time, and they're like, yo, Tom C, play this game. And we're like, no chance.
Yeah, it's usually a bad game.
They're like, Tom C, I don't know if you've heard, but on my computer I got this game. I call it Solitaire.
Yo, y'all won't play checkers on the internet? That's what they say. And I say no.
Hey, let's play Spider Solitaire. I say no, sounds too scary.
But this one came across the line, like a bowling ball down the alley.
Like a thundering bowling ball across the sky lane.
It's true. And what did we say? We said no. We absolutely ignored it for months and months on end.
Yeah.
Possibly years.
But then
Something happened, and I decided to give it a try again for about 5 minutes, where I didn't play it, but we just heard the intro theme song.
I was about to say, you played the intro theme song, and then I feel like I really ran with it.
You really ran. You know what? Above and beyond. Mm-hmm. Above and beyond. So what happened? We played the first and the second one in its entirety. So how is this review going to go? RNG, guys, by the way, welcome in case we didn't say it.
This is our show.
This is the show, the review show. So how is this going to go down? Because there's so much to deal with. There's going to be no spoilers in this review until the end.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it
until the majority end of the game.
Yeah, we're gonna let you know.
But I have an order all planned out. I know my notebook.
Well, fill me in there, hombre.
First off, we're gonna talk about the actual game itself, gameplay, and then we're gonna do recommendations, and then we're just gonna spoiler the whole thing.
Of 1 and 2?
Yeah.
All right, we're doing it at the same time?
Yeah, we'll do it together. Why not?
All right, let's start with the first game then.
Yeah, because here's the deal. A lot of the gameplay's the same. Let's be honest.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's why I think we can do them together because the gameplay is very similar.
Can we start with 1 and then go on to 2? Just to quickly describe 1 how it plays, and then let's go to 2.
Okay, in 1, you grab weapons and you beat people to death or you shoot them, and you get different power ups depending on what mask you have. Okay,
that's basically true of 2 too.
Yeah.
Basically, that's it entirely. It's a game that's fast-paced. It's top-down shooter, an action game as they call it. Your goal is to kill Russian mobsters, especially in the first one.
And you get combos based on how many people you kill in a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's a high-octane, super-duper game, I would say.
You gotta beat them up. Bam!
Well, you gotta do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a great game, high intensity. But what really drives people to the game?
Number 1, for us at least, soundtrack.
I was going to say that is the thing.
Soundtrack.
That's number 1.
Top tier.
Because here's the deal. If this game had a worse soundtrack, no one would play it.
Yeah,
Straight
think
up.
That's true.
No, if they did it differently at all, nobody.
That's the thing about this game.
Actually, I don't think that's fair. I take that back.
No, but that's the thing. I feel like the thing about the first game very much is that it's very much a perfect storm where you have a lot of different elements coming together, and then boom, lightning in a bottle.
Right. I think you're on catchphrase mode today. You're doing a lot of stuff.
That's what she said.
Great. Anyway, so you play as a man named Nothing. He's colloquially known as Jacket. He doesn't talk. He progresses through the game. Things kind of happen around him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of storytelling that's done via the environment, and there is very little storytelling done via dialogue.
I would say he's the eye of the hurricane.
Listen, what is your deal?
No, I mean, I think that's a legitimate description. Like everything that's going on around him seems to more or less not faze him at all. But there's so much crazy hurricane stuff going on.
Okay, here's what I need us to do.
Okay.
I don't want to mention at all what happens in 2 yet.
That's fine.
Okay, so in 1, because here's the deal. Trust me. Here's the deal. Trust me. That's how I go through it. In 1, you essentially are just a person who gets phone calls and you go and kill people. Mm-hmm. So it seems to you, the player, that the only motivation is the main character's desire for action. Like he wants money and he wants action, right? That's kind of the idea.
He doesn't really get a lot of money, though.
No, well, actually, you don't even know that there's money.
That's true.
You just know that this person is a person who loves fighting, who loves action, loves killing, whatever. And that's kind of where you are as a player, is you don't really have a lot of motivation to do these things. You just get in the moment, and even though there's brutal violence, you're continuing to the end. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the main thing that the game eventually wraps around to, but we'll get to that later. The game, with its pumping soundtrack, kind of like forces you through things, forces you to not think about exactly what's going on, which is it kind of puts you in the mind of the main character too. Because he's kind of adrenaline pumping, he's in the moment killing, it's not really about what else is going on.
Well, I think that it depends on how you play. I was very much into all the things that was going on around me because I played a bit more cautiously probably than a lot of people would play this game. Mm-hmm. So I was very, very aware of level design and the enemies that would be patrolling. Guys, there's really, in the 1, there's really only 3 different kinds of enemies. There's regular thugs who are killed, or regular mobsters who are killed by everything. You got thugs who can only be killed by gunfire, and you have dogs who are bitches, and I hate a lot.
I think this
and then you have bosses every once in a while.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk about bosses in a second.
Bosses.
First of all, I think this game is those thugs particularly tailor-made to make you say, I hate big black people. Because they're always just big fat black dudes.
Yeah, they changed that up a little bit in 2 because they do come back. But
for the first game, you're going to see these big black dudes and you'll be like, God, not another big black dude. And then, okay, what I will say about bosses is, for some reason it continues to 2, no reason for bosses. Should not have been included, in a huge waste of time.
I didn't even realize that there were things that were bosses until after I finished the game. Because the first boss, the record producer in level 3, or the producer, I just shot him a few times with a shotgun, and then that was over. I didn't realize he was supposed to be a boss, because he died really fast.
It feels poorly executed. It's definitely not fun in any regard. Which, it doesn't have to be fun, but it's not well done. So I think bosses are a waste of time.
I think they were better. I think they were done better than they were in the original Deus Ex, at least. They at least fit the theme.
I don't even agree with that. I don't think they fit the theme. It depends on what you think the theme is here. Do you think the theme is people?
Well,
unless if the theme is,
I think it fit the gameplay.
Okay. Well, here's my problem. The bosses don't do that because the gameplay for the most part is kill or be killed. However, all bosses randomly don't get hurt by something. They can't get hit by certain things. They need you to do a certain thing to kill them. It's totally out of place. Because there are some enemies that only get affected by certain things, sure. I feel like they're kind of out of place too. But bosses specifically don't make any sense because, for the most part, they're not even portrayed as particularly strong. Like, why is the biker someone who can't get shot?
Because you don't have a gun in that part.
I mean, you could have walked in with a gun. But, like, you can't punch this guy. He's just a regular dude. You even see him later and he's a regular dude. He certainly can get punched later when something is going on. Where
yeah, but he has a knife in that part. Because you only need
How many people with knives do you punch in that game?
I mean, you do a lot, but I think listen, I don't think that's a problem.
If I were to find anything wrong with this game, it would be boss fights.
Because I did not have a problem with, because I did not have a difficulty beating them, I don't think they were a problem.
I didn't have any difficulty beating them. I think they're stupid.
Well, I beat them so fast I didn't even notice they were there.
Well, that's not a good. I don't think that's. Listen, you can beat them as fast as you want. They don't fit in the game for me. Maybe you loved them. Maybe you love record producers. Maybe you love the game slowing down to a pace where you fight one dude who needs a specific thing. Like, how much fun is it in that one fight, in another game, where you run away from a guy until someone throws a pipe.
Yeah, I mean, that was annoying, but that's a whole different thing.
How is that different? Because in the biker fight, you can't hit him until he stops doing something.
Right.
You have to wait around in a game that is specifically about fast-paced action.
But it's still fast-paced. You're not like if you or I were on two different ends of this table, and we're both kind of like leaning back and forth because we're not sure which way which one would go. Mm-hmm. I would say that would be slow. But this is still fast-paced in that we're like, it'd be us running through the whole house, trying to avoid one another. Like if I was chasing you down with a knife, that wouldn't be slow-paced if you were unarmed, because it'd still be scary. It still should be a tense moment, because at the time, you're not armed, you don't have anything going on, so you have to do your best to stay away from me with my knife.
That's true.
So I would not say it slows anything down, because it's still that kind of frantic, fast-paced, we gotta be out of here.
Well, to me, they felt more tedious. That I can't tell you what to think. To me, they felt tedious and out of place. I mean, if you like them, that's great. We don't have to agree on everything. I don't think you're going to make me believe this, because I don't.
But I'm counting your point that they slowed the game down.
Well, guys, comment below if you think it's true. Anyway, let's move on from that. The soundtrack is great. World's best soundtrack.
Soundtrack's fantastic.
We can't we're underselling it, because this game it's really about atmosphere, and the atmosphere is probably 99% soundtrack. When I was playing number 2 specifically, I got this feeling, right? Yeah, I got a feeling that, like, is kind of video game nirvana for me, which is the fight was it was the one level where you're playing as the fans of the second game. Doesn't matter. That's all I'm gonna give you. But you're playing as them, and a song called "Sexualizer" comes on.
Right.
Go look it up, guys. It's a great song. It's the first time you can play as a certain character who I played as, and I was just like completely in the moment. Guys, listen.
I mean, we can talk about stuff.
Yeah, I know.
That's not going to be spoiled.
I feel like I got you. But anyway, guys, Zen, to me, is a state of clear mind where you're focusing all your energy on one thing. There's nothing else you're thinking about. You're completely focused on one task ahead of you. And that's kind of what this game is at its best. Because when I'm playing that level, and I'm worried about what's around the corner, I'm worried where the enemies are, I'm pumped up by that sexualizer. That's all I'm thinking about, is getting through this level. I'm not worried about what's coming next. I get a task ahead of me, which is killing all these dudes and getting through it. And the music is driving me through it. And it's a perfect feeling of presentness. You're not anywhere else. You're like, I need to accomplish this.
Right.
For a top-down 8-bit game, it might be 16-bit, it did a completely perfect job of immersing me in that environment, in that mindset of not panic, but focus.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's where the game goes above what it could have been. And I think that's in a large part because of the atmosphere and because of the music specifically. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's fair.
I think it's more than fair. I think it's right. I mean, was that your experience with it?
I think that it was a lot of things. I think a big part of it was... Obviously, a big part of it was the music. The color scheme, especially of the mobsters that you're fighting, just the white ice cream suit with the blue shirts.
Right.
Like, everything felt very what I imagined stereotypically would be.
Not imagining dudes in ice cream shirts.
Well, I think that's called an ice cream suit. I don't know.
I would like it. I want to buy a suit with ice cream on it. Guys.
It's what I would kind of imagine stereotypical gangster 80s Miami to be. Like, especially with all the neon, especially with people wearing those, like, tacky leisure suits almost. Mm-hmm. I think that's what was so effective. Also, a big part of it was, I feel, the amount of violence that was there.
Right.
Because, as you were saying in certain levels where you're kind of going through rooms and, like, clearing people out, like, it feels really good in this game to, like, legitimately kill people. Because, like, there are some people, especially people who had been giving you problems before. Like, if you ran into one of these thugs that we talked about earlier, the people who would only be killed by guns.
Big black dudes.
Yeah, and they run up to you and they, like, beat you every time with their fists. Mm-hmm. But then, finally, you go through one life where you manage to wing him with a shotgun, and then you throw that shotgun onto a different guy who you run up and then stomp his head in, right. Grab his fire axe, spin around, cleave some other guy's head off. You're like...
Okay, well, For the sake of knowing a little more about me, if you only watch...
I'm using emojis. That's
Is that what that is?
It's verbal emojis.
In case you don't know much about me, because we have Let's Plays, right? We talk about ourselves a lot. But something that's very true of me is I really don't like violence.
I don't really either, which is why it's...
We're neither of us are huge gore fans.
Yeah.
But I specifically abhor violence. I truly don't like it in any shape or form. Like I feel it usually takes away. And the thing is, this game is ultra violent for sure. Mm-hmm. And what I read was, and this is how I experienced it, was that it's supposed to be that the environment is so frantic and fast-paced that this brutal violence is something you just look over. You're like, this is incredibly brutal. If this was all you were given, if you were given a silent game where you ran in and did that to some dude, you'd be like, this is disturbing. But since there's pumping music, your heart's pounding, you're moving through it, the terrible violence of it is something that you just look over.
Yeah.
And that I feel like is effectively done in the first game.
But I feel like also, though, I feel like it's actually weirdly kind of hand in hand. Because while you are overlooking the substantial amount of violence that's there, you don't look, because people get their guts ripped out or their heads chopped off, you don't look at every monster that happens to you. But when there's a high watermark, when there's just a spike of violence where you get a 12 combo that you did in approximately 2 seconds because you got a few lucky hits in with a shotgun and then quickly switched over to a samurai sword that was lying around nearby, you revel in that kind of violence, I think, because you're so into your character being so adept about what's going on and being able to handle all that I think it actually goes kind of hand in hand.
Maybe. I mean, the way I experienced it was the way I said it. But I mean, it's definitely something that's open to interpretation and how you deal with it. For some people, I bet you that's exactly how it is. But for critics like me, oh God, I know in his head he was imagining doing such violence to me, right? Admit it.
No, I actually know what kind of joke I'm going to do for that. Anyway,
it's completely effective in what it's trying to do. And here's the thing: are we going to talk about 2 too? Because I'm going to get right into it with my initial opinion on 2. 2, as far as gameplay is concerned, is advanced. The gameplay in 2 is increased as far as what the enemies can do. Mm-hmm. It is not increased in what you can do for the most part. It's actually restricted in a lot of cases. But for the most part, everything that's so effective in 1 is less effective in 2.
And that's for a lot of different reasons. And we're going to go into it when we go into the spoilers part. But basically what happens, guys, is in 1, you only play as 2 people. You play as Jacket, who has a wide variety of masks to choose from that give him special abilities that allow him to do certain things.
Right. And a spoiler character who, if you reveal, would kind of spoil the game.
Wouldn't really. I mean,
he's someone in the first game. You don't know that you're playing him. First time I played through it, I had no idea I was going to play as this guy later.
I guess that's true. But all right, then fine. Then you play somebody else.
Actually, playing as somebody else is kind of a spoiler too.
Well, it's really too late for that. We play as somebody else. Who cares? But you don't get the option to use masks with that character. They have one play style, and that's what you have to use for those levels that you play as him. Mm-hmm. Whereas in 2, there are several different storylines that kind of diverge from one another, and each one has its own different combat style that's not necessarily involving any of the masks from the first game. So while one set of characters, known as the fans, they have some options, and another one, Jake, has some options. Everyone else only has one combat style, which feels very restrictive.
Yeah. How many characters are in the second game?
8 or 9?
8. Well,
okay.
Put the fans as one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fans, Jake, Soldier, Henchman, Sun, Manny Pardo, Evan, the reporter. I think that's it.
I think that's probably it too.
So you have 7, but
Beard.
I said 7. Soldier.
Oh, right.
But Manny Pardo, Evan, Henchman, they don't really have combat styles to them. And we forgot the pig guy, the actor.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll go into that later. But that's 4 characters who, because the thing about the other character in the first game was, while you didn't get to choose, he at least had something going for him. Mm-hmm. But the actor guy in this game, he doesn't get any mask abilities, and he doesn't get anything.
Yeah.
He only has the weapons that are available on the level.
But there's a few characters that only get to just be there. They don't get any... And that's the problem. One had replay value because you might try and go through each level as each mask. You might try to replay a level as something. You might try to do certain things to unlock certain masks or certain weapons.
And you might even do that with the other characters' levels as well.
Yeah.
Like because that playstyle that he has is fun.
Yeah. But it's not, in 2, there is not that kind of replayability, which is confusing as to why they would choose to
At
do
least
that.
with those characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's only some levels that can be replayed with different styles.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the hardest levels, I would say, into there was no option to replay it as different characters.
Right.
And my concern is that maybe it was done because the balance would change with it, because something like that, you know what I mean?
But we've said this a few times about a lot of different games, and it doesn't hold quite as true here, but who cares? Who cares about balance?
That's what I said.
Yeah, because the thing about this game, and guys, I've always said this about, it's always been one of my theories about game design, is that the best way to design a game and the best way to make things interesting for your players is you come up with a game that has a specific set of rules. Mm-hmm. Then you allow characters to break those rules in very small ways.
Right.
That, to me, is the most interesting way to play a game.
We call this the chess style of game making.
I would call it the knight style of game making.
I was just kidding. Chess is a game you can never break.
Well, I mean, if you look at the way knights move, it's a little different.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, basically, because that's why knights are so interesting in chess. Because everyone else moves one way, or this way, but the knight can go whoop, whoop, and he can go over people. So like, oh, the knight's an interesting piece, and using him effectively is an interesting way to play the game. Mm-hmm. And in the first game, you're like, okay, well, this level's really hard with the mask that lets me have lethal throws. But if I have the mask that lets me do lethal punches, then it's a little easier, and I can kind of find ways around things.
And you might challenge yourself later by doing it in a way that wasn't your exact choice. They don't have to give you these choices, but it makes for a more fun, replayable game as far as I'm concerned.
And I think also a big part of it is the fact that, like, at the beginning of each level, you see what mask you're going to wear, and you can kind of, like, almost imagine yourself wearing it. Mm-hmm. But, like, with Manny Pardo, the fabulous detective,
right?
He's just Manny Pardo. He doesn't wear a mask. He has one sweet shotgun turn, and that's it.
Yeah. Here's something I'm going to say, and it might be showing my hand too soon.
Okay.
One, I thought was pretty much a perfect game. That's neither here nor there. Two, sometimes you have something that's so perfect, you wonder if it's a fluke. Mm. And one was perfect in every way, and I would say if that was the only game that came out, I would say Donation, whoever was in charge of the thought process, genius. Guy's a genius. He's great at what he does. Then the second one, you're like, oh, it was all an accident. Completely, the entire thing, you're like, he got lucky. That's probably the most negative thing I can say, but it feels true for me.
I disagree. For me, it's much more of a case of, say your mom's really good at baking pies.
She is, of course.
Of course she is. Your mom's really good at baking pies, and she makes one pie that every year you're like super duper excited for. Like for Christmas, she makes a Christmas pie. So you eat this pie, and you're like, I can't wait for more pie, for mom to make more pie. Then your mom decides, you know what? I'm going to go into the pie business. Your mom doesn't have any experience like really making this much pie, and she has trouble, and the pies kind of decrease in quality because she has to make a lot of pies, and she ends up spreading herself too thin. That's the way I look at it. It's not that it was a fluke. It's that they took on too much and they couldn't handle it.
I hear you. I respect you, but I do not agree with this at all. As far as I'm concerned, in 2, they took everything that was good about 1, didn't continue with it, took everything that was bad about 1, and then went further on it. Because they were like, this game's hard. Let's make it more hard. That's not what people were there for. Yes, they can make it challenging, but they were like, let's just make the levels huge and hard all the time. And that's fair. You can make the game more challenging, but the reason people loved the game was the masks, was the music, all that stuff. They weren't there because they felt it was so hard. No one's talking about Hotline Miami, this is the world's hardest game.
Right.
They're just like, yeah, it was challenging, but it was rewarding. In 2, they're like, people like hard games, so let's make it hard. They're like, people like the story so much, they like talking about the lore.
That's the biggest.
So let's make a million stories.
That's the biggest problem. Is that they really thought that they suddenly shift focus from gameplay to story,
and it's a huge mistake. Huge mistake, right?
Your mom's really good at making pies.
I don't think this analogy is that great.
No, here we go. Your mom's really good at making pies. You love her pies. It's great. Then one year she decides to make a cake. She's not good at making cakes.
Okay.
That's the way I kind of look at it.
Okay. But here's my problem. The cake is so bad it makes the first pie look bad. Because it's like a cake that's styled after this pie, right?
Right.
She's making cherry pies. She makes a cherry cake. And you're like, oh, wait, cherries aren't that great. Because it literally takes away from the first game. It does.
I don't think it... To me...
I can tell you why it does, but we're not there yet.
Me personally, I do look at them in different games as different... Because that's a bad point, actually. We're not going to make that. But the point is that I look at them as different games, and I can still enjoy one, and even though I know what's coming in two.
I can still enjoy one, but you have to completely isolate it.
That's what I'm saying. I do. Yeah, I look at it just as a standalone thing.
But yeah, but can you?
I think we gotta start getting to spoilers. I think it's time.
Well, we said we were gonna do recommendations.
Yeah, we're gonna do recommendations, guys. Definitely play Hotline Miami 1.
Guys, I recommend 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I think 1 is a perfect game. As far as I'm concerned, even with the bosses, I don't like that. I think 1 is a perfect game.
Yeah, I don't think you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong at least buying 1.
Yeah, you're going to get it for like $2.
Some people might not like 2. That's fine. I understand that. I liked it. I would buy it.
Yeah. I'm sure there's going to be bundle deals at some point where 1 and 2...
I bought it as a bundle.
Yeah. It's probably going to be like $10 for both at some point.
Yeah.
1 is most
That summer
certainly...
sale's coming soon.
1 is most certainly worth playing. Yeah. Absolutely. If you're interested in any kind of challenge, if you're interested in great music, if you're interested in a game that is immersive and satisfying...
And unique. Because I've never played anything like this before.
Yeah, this game will definitely get back your $2.50.
Yeah.
2, I think you need to experience because it's something, and they're trying something, and it so doesn't work for me that you just need to see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's fun. I ripped through the game I always wanted to play it. I always wanted to play it because I thought it was going to go somewhere. We'll comment on if it does or not later. But
I mean, I liked 2. Don't get me wrong.
2 is fun from a gameplay standpoint, and it's challenging and rewarding.
And there are some parts in the story that I did enjoy.
Yeah. 2 is worth playing from a gameplay standpoint.
Yeah.
Story, I don't know about that yet.
There's some parts that I enjoyed, but we're gonna get into that, guys.
Guys, cover your kids' ears.
Yeah, skip to this time code if you don't want to see spoilers.
Skip to the time code. The end of the video.
Yeah, we might have a little bit.
Might have a little bit to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to talk about stories of both games. Pretty important because the reason why 2 is less satisfying is because of these things.
Guys, here's what I'm gonna come right out of the gate swinging. There's one line that I say about this game is that in Hotline Miami 1, the game is anonymous and ambiguous because you don't know who either of the main characters are. It's never explained, and you're not sure why they're doing a lot of the things they do.
Right.
And it's a rare case where the lack of details is not very annoying. It's actually quite enjoyable, at least for me, to theorize and think about why these two characters are doing the things that they're doing and what's actually going on in the game, because you don't know.
I would say it's not only not hindering, it is important to be vague. For you to get that experience of being along for this ride, you can't know this stuff. It's important that you don't have an idea why this stuff is happening.
Right.
And it actually creates the tension of trying to learn about it in Biker's thing.
Yeah.
Because the Biker things are like, why did the first stuff happen? Why did that weird stuff happen? And you know that the Biker's trying to figure it out because he explicitly says it. So you're more inclined to enjoy his story because that's kind of where the whole thing makes sense. But the first thing isn't about making sense.
Right.
It's about that experience going along for that ride of Jacket.
And then in 2, they removed a lot of the ambiguity.
I would say all of it.
They removed a lot of the anonymity, and they just made
all of it.
They just made the tone so much darker for some reason. Like 2 is just very depressing to me.
They're both dark. 2 is much more depressing and for no reason.
But again, at least in 1, you have that ambiguity around you that, like, yes, it's very dark because of all the stuff that's going on, but for some reason it works.
Do you think it'd be valuable
in 2,
to give
it doesn't work for me.
People a plot synopsis real quick? Can you give me one real quick?
Do you want one? Okay.
And then we'll do 2 too.
Jacket the main character in the first part of the game, receives strange phone calls about people who want him to go kill a bunch of mobsters that he doesn't know are Russian mobsters at the time. He just goes in and kills them.
Right.
Over time, he rescues a blonde hooker who lives in his apartment, and then fights a guy named Biker, a fan called Biker, and then after that, he actually starts tracking down the people who give him the phone calls, and then eventually a hitman comes to his house and attempts to kill him and kills his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. He goes and hunts down the Russian mob boss. Game ends. That's the end of Jacket's story.
Yeah.
Biker's line is divergent from the biker fight in Jacket's storyline about Jacket hunting down the 50 blessings, who are the people behind these telephone calls, and hunting them down. You can get one ending if you've gotten all the puzzles in the game. You can get another ending where they don't explain anything. The puzzle ending explains what's going on and who they are. You can choose to kill them from there. That's one.
Yeah.
Is there anything I missed?
No, but note how concise that story is.
In 2, you have 1, 2, 3, almost 9 different story paths. You have a reporter who's investigating the Jacket murders, essentially. Mm-hmm. You have the actor who's portraying, who's acting in a movie about the Jacket murders, who seems to be a crazy guy who delights in killing people.
Right.
You have, one of the characters from the first game. Actually, you have 2 of the characters. But one of the characters in the first game, you have the shop owner, who it was a soldier in a fictional war between the U.S. and Russia in Hawaii.
In
1985.
85.
The same year that Marty McFly went back in time. Then you have another character from the first game who's actually the assassin who killed Jacket's girlfriend and tried to kill Jacket. And you see what's going on with him before and after those events occur. Mm-hmm. Then you have the fans, who are people who are basically obsessed with Jacket and want to emulate his killing spree. Then you have Manny Pardo, who is a psychopathic, unlikable person who I didn't like at all. He's a police detective. And you have the son of the Russian mob boss that you killed in the first game, and you have one of his henchmen.
Okay, so that's 8. I can't remember how many fingers I had. So here are the characters who
I have 10. Great.
So here's what I'm going to start this off with. Most of these character stories have no importance to anything.
And aren't interesting.
Let's go into details. Manny Pardo, waste of time.
Nope.
Hardest missions, waste of time. Henchmen, not really important.
Yeah.
The son, important. Fans, important.
Okay, here, I'm going to go ranking.
Actor, not important.
I'm going to go ranking from stories that I liked to stories I didn't like. I love the fans. Fans are my favorite part of that game.
Fans are obviously the best.
Yeah, everybody loves the fans, and there's a good reason for that.
Yeah, they're clearly the most interesting and fun. And the most like one.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, we forgot Jake, who also isn't important.
Who cares?
Although I think Jake's the one guy... You remember the one guy who always wore the shamog?
Yeah,
I think that's supposed to be Jake.
Maybe.
Regardless... So you have the fans, who I love. I absolutely love the fan storyline. I loved everything that went on with them. It was very, very depressing when they died.
Yeah.
Like, I think they should have done that maybe towards the end, because
it's so stupid how they did it.
I lost a lot of interest after they died. Like, it was very, very disturbing and very... just took the wind out of me almost. Like, I felt very much like I ddidn't want to go on with the game for a while.
So I don't want this review to be, like, randomly placed, but I think it's kind of important that we say how this game ends real quick.
Yes.
Because it really takes away from everything. Guys, so we've mentioned all these people, but the main overarching plot, which is kind of alluded to in everyone's story, is that there's a war between the U.S. and Soviet Russia, right? So at one point, the Russians nuked San Francisco, right? Okay, so this makes Americans not like Russians, even though there's a peace treaty, which would, okay, that's great.
I think the idea, for what I read, I think the idea is more that America lost a war against Russia, and the coalition is just more basically America being a USSR client state.
Maybe. I don't know about that.
I think that's what that's what I read. I'm just, yeah.
Well, regardless, that happened. The citizens of Miami and whatever, of America, are not happy about it. So this 50 blessings is actually secretly a way to kill Russian people, specifically mobsters, because now there's like Russian people doing crimes on the shores. They don't like it. So that happens. Blah 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 blah. Everything's exploded at the end.
Yeah,
everyone dies at the end.
There's a nuclear attack that kills everybody.
What? What? Why? Why is any of this happening? Who cares? Who cares about any of the stories then? What's the point of anything ever? Could you say that my life won't be interesting if I die in a nuclear bomb strike? It would actually be pretty cool. But in this particular instance, you've done all this work for an ending that is not satisfying, and also it feels like a cop-out. Also, it's so completely different from how satisfying one was, how concise one was. You just have this stupid thing that happens. You're not fighting against the Russian army, except in those missions. Your main antagonist in that game is not Russian people.
It's just everybody.
Yeah, because in one, you're not like, I hate Russians. That's the problem. This game takes away from one, because now, one, you're not vague and killing Russian gangsters for a phone call thing. You are Jacket, who is avenging Beard's death by killing Russian people. You understand what I'm saying?
Is that what that's supposed to be?
Yeah, now you are... because you could infer this, because you are following 50 Blessings to kill Russian people. Why would he progress through that? He kills a Russian boss instead of doing the thing to fight 50 Blessings, because he's not against 50 Blessings. He hates Russian people. He's avenging Beard, who is his friend from the war in Hawaii,
who gets nuked
by
in
Russians.
San Francisco.
So one is made worse because now it's not this person who is just like you, the player, interested in violence. You are this person getting revenge for your friend. It is made a million times worse.
Okay. I liked Beard's storyline. He's called Soldier in this game, but I actually liked Beard's storyline. I thought it was kind of interesting to actually look back and see, because tell me you weren't at least a little curious in one, why he was at every convenience store and every bar and every video game store that you went to after you completed a mission.
I think it would have been more interesting to believe that Jacket is either so callous to people that he imagines them all being the same person, or he's just crazy. That's how I feel. It's not really essential for me.
But I don't think it's essential. But I think it's at least interesting. But I think
here's my problem. Sorry to talk over you. Is that it's not important that I know anything about one, because by itself, one did it. It accomplished what it set out to do.
One worked, right?
You don't need to go back and change the lore for that game because it was complete by itself. I didn't need to know that because I assume the guy's head, creator of the game, made sense as a complete thing to release it as that. It didn't need to be explained to him when he made it, so why does it now need to go back? It's like he knew this was something people latched onto and was like, well, let's flesh that out.
I think that's a big part of it. I think they knew that Beard was kind of a fan favorite, and they just kind of went with it.
And it didn't need to. He didn't need to be someone he knew.
Right. Well,
Right? I mean, it's interesting and it's neat.
Beard was probably my third favorite storyline.
Well, you can't do much better than that. I'm just saying
I didn't hate Beard.
No, they were fun to play as, for sure. But I feel like it was more an excuse to get the gameplay in that environment, which I respect that. But it's not really... I feel like the first game I didn't play for the story, and the second one I did, which is my fault as a player.
Yeah, I think also that's kind of the way as well.
Because if you were just experience this game from a gameplay experience view, it's just as good as the first one.
Right.
It's got the challenge, it's got everything you want, it's got the pumping music, it's great. But the problem is they try and frame this violence, which they didn't do in the first game, and it kind of takes away. It is fun. Beard's stories are fun. Here's the deal. Some of the characters are very likable. Beard's definitely very likable.
Yeah.
The son is easily the coolest character ever in the series, period. He's the coolest character
I don't think he's as cool as Biker, but that's just me.
Biker's my favorite character, but the son is secretly might be my favorite character. Because the son is rad. The son is the son of the mob boss from the first game. I don't know if we mentioned that. He's got a swastika tattoo on his face, and by tattoo I mean scar. He carries a katana that is in remembrance of his father's bodyguard.
I think it's supposed to actually be the same one, but
yeah. He wears her sunglasses too. He carries a necklace that is his dad's. Essentially, all of his missions are to he's actually a good guy too. Because here's the deal: the henchman, he's like, I'm done being a mafia guy, and the son's like, all right, you're doing one more mission, and then you're like, that's what they always say in the mob. But no,
yeah,
the son's like, all right, you're good. See ya.
Thanks, bro.
Doesn't follow him. He's just like, hey, get lost.
Yeah.
The son has his own things he's trying to do, and then he does it. And then he's satisfied. He doesn't care about money. He doesn't care about crime. He just wants to make himself proud. He wants to do things that he think would make his dad proud. But he accomplishes it.
But I think that's also, I mean, they kind of conquered in the game that that's kind of his problem as well, is that he is always in the shadow of his father.
Well, here's his whole canon, guys. He does this thing to make his father proud in his head. He then does so, and then has nothing else to live for. And then kills himself by taking too much drugs. That's it.
I suppose
that's his whole life, and so that's cool. It's that's satisfying as a story. It's actually kind of interesting because the fans are murdered by him. There's something they allude to. I can't remember what it is because he doesn't kill Tony. Everyone else has some kind of relation to why the son is doing stuff, and I can't remember what it is. Oh yeah, because the henchman's killed by the fans.
Yeah.
And apparently everyone is involved in henchman's death but Tony. I don't remember why. I can't remember why it is, but I remember reading about this. And so in his story, he kills everyone but Tony.
All right.
And then he jumps off a building. So his last thing to do is take a bunch of drugs and then get revenge. And then he kills himself. Not on purpose. But his story is the most satisfying completely and the most in line with the game.
I think Sun's worked. Sun's story worked. I think the fan story worked.
Fan story works
because
very sad ending, but it works.
Very sad ending, but you get a feel for the characters about what they're doing on. Their playstyles are all fun and unique, and then it has an ending that makes sense within the frame of the story,
and it gives a feeling too.
Yeah.
It gives that feeling. That was my most satisfying play of 2 was playing as them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they 100%. Had the most exciting missions, I would say, for sure.
They definitely had the most memorable missions.
And they had the most in line with 1's kind of vagueness. Which
is because they had absolutely no motive for any of the stuff they were doing.
Which is how you experienced 1.
Too. They were essentially thrill killers.
Yeah, and that was what 1 was in your head about.
Yeah.
So that's great. They're the most enjoyable. You see the most fan art of them too, which is fun. They're just cool characters. They're interesting. They're very likable, even though they're all murderers.
Yeah.
But if anyone was going to replay any missions, it would be theirs for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then you got Manny Pardo. This guy is an investigator. He also kills Tony at one point. He's in general unlikable. His story revolves around a Miami mutilator, right? Who he is searching for. Who is not Jacket. He's not anyone like that.
No.
Okay, here's my problem.
Yeah.
It's not relevant at all. He's not searching for someone else in the story. He's searching for some guy that's only relevant to his own story. He kind of interacts with a few of them, but it doesn't matter.
I mean, you could have that where it works. It just didn't work here.
It doesn't work.
Is what I would say.
Maybe I'm a little biased because all of his missions are super hard and not fun.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
And
again, he doesn't have a thing. He doesn't have a gameplay thing. He's just Manny Pardo.
Maybe it's because his car has a shotgun sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just not worthwhile.
No, there's not really a lot there. He's unlikable as a character. His missions are dark and not fun.
Still not the worst, though.
Who would you say is the worst?
Actor, by far.
Okay, what did the actor do again? Is he just the pig guy?
Yeah, he's just the pig guy.
I think that's kind of fun just because you can... It's probably the worst. It's my second least favorite. But it's at least it's kind of neat from like a Mind F vibe.
Yeah, that's true. But it feels like it could have been. Here's my question.
It's bad.
Here's my question. So, what if instead of releasing Hotline Miami 2, you had like Hotline Miami the side episodes,
side stories,
and what happened was like
great. It's already great. I'm already on board.
You basically just had. Basically, like they would almost release like one level at a time for like each story mode. Like you played through the actors. They're like, here we go. It's the first part of Hotline Miami side stories, the actor, and you're like, oh, this is cool because it's seeing what's part of the world. Then it's like Hotline Miami 2, Manny Pardo. You're like, okay, that's something else, but it doesn't. Yeah. What if it was not so much part of Hotline Miami 2, but it was just like Hotline Miami stories?
Do you think we're irritating the other people on this beach?
What?
Like, there's people trying to swim.
Oh, no, we're fine.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, it's still
we
hot.
cordoned off the whole area.
By the way, you can see I'm covered in sweat.
Yeah.
You can't see under the table, but I'm in my swim shorts.
Oh, we both are.
Actually,
we have a cool poolside recording scenario.
Foolishly, we did not purchase an umbrella.
No.
So we're definitely getting burnt.
Beaming down.
Definitely getting burnt. Anyway.
I forgot I was going to wear zinc on my nose for this.
That would have been funny. I mean, you're going to regret not doing that.
It's going to burn even worse.
No, I think that would have been a better thing. And at the very most, they shouldn't have effed with the first one. Shouldn't have tried to make it related at all. Because that's where I know... That gives me the vibe of not brilliance, but instead cashing in. Which is something I don't think he was doing, but you could make so much more an argument that the things the creator of this game latches onto is the thing that's going to make the most money. And it's the things that it's not things in his head that he thought would make the game better. It's things that he thought people liked. And that's not how you should make art.
Here's my question. If Beard's levels just ended with him not getting nuked, it just ended with him and Jacket being evacuated of the jungle, would you have any problem with that at all?
No. That would have been fine.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Why do you ask?
I was just curious. I just wanted to know where you had the most problem with it. So
I kind of have a problem with the whole overarching U.S. and USSR thing.
It seems very strange and very forced.
There's
absolutely nothing that talks about in the first one.
Here's the deal, guys. When I finished the game, I looked up what was the meaning behind some things. I didn't know some of the stuff that happened. I didn't understand the context of it. And so I looked it up and I was like, how do these people know this stuff? And there's like little context clues. There's not like hidden dialogues or anything.
No.
And you're like, but I didn't experience these stories. In the first game, you played a game, you experienced it, that was the story. And 2, there's other stuff happening that you're kind of gleaning clues of. And you're like, but why? Who cares? You're not interested in that. You're not interested in how's the America going to do. Oh, man, I hope America does good after this.
Yeah, no. Because you're not there for big picture. You're there for the little details.
This game was perfect on a small level. They made it macro. And you're like, nobody cares. And they effing ruined 1 by making 50 Blessings a thing that made sense instead of being a vague killing organization. They made Jacket now vengeful instead of just a good thrill seeker, which you, the player, are. It's so furious. I'm furious about it. Because in 1, you get to the ending that isn't the secret ending when you're biker, right?
All right.
You talk to the people who are the game's creators in the game. They put themselves in the game. And if you don't have the secret password, they're just like, well, you just like hurting people. And he's like, huh? They can't really be that. And they're like, nope, that's all. You just like hurting people, so we helped you out. Which is them talking to you, the player. They're saying, why is this all here like this? Because you wanted to play a game where you shoot people. They're talking directly to you. Unless you get the secret ending where they're like, we just hate Russians. And then that's all. That's the entire basis of why 2 has that whole thing. And it was... You weren't playing 1 for that?
Yeah, because I think really the best storylines in 2 were the ones that were the most focused and the least broad.
Absolutely 100% true. Does the sun matter at all? His thing is completely contained.
Right.
His story is his story. The fans, their story.
I liked Beard, and I genuinely liked Richter's story. Richter's the guy, guys, for those of you who don't know or don't remember, Richter's the guy who tries to kill Jacket and kills Jacket's girlfriend in the first game. I liked Richter's story. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that one's definitely the saddest one.
Yeah, but definitely seeing it from the perspective of that it's not just kind of seeing how everything starts and kind of what sets certain things in motion, because that's one that I don't think really affects 1 at all. Mm-hmm. Because you don't even go through any of the levels where there's not like a Jacket fight. There's not anything like that. There's one level that takes place before Jacket attack, Richter attacks Jacket, and one level that takes place after Jacket attacks the police station. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't interact with 1 at all. It just kind of embellishes a little bit. Yeah. And I think that's fine. And I kind of like that. And then there was him escaping to Hawaii. I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
I didn't hate that.
Here's another thing. I'm sorry, it sounds like we're very negative. It's whatever. Just, can you remember any specific missions and how they related to the overarching story? Because let's face it.
In 1 or 2?
2. In 1, you probably couldn't remember every mission, but there's some missions you go, this directly led to this. But in 2, you're like, okay, power plant. The only reason for this whole stage is so that this thing at the end can happen where he gets hurt and he saves him. Like, what's the point of Stronghold?
Yeah, I mean...
That you're in the army?
I guess.
What is that establishing? Like, the missions are there just for gameplay, and like the game's way longer too.
Oh yeah.
And for the most part, it's.
I think I almost have 20 hours in 2. Something close like that. Something close to that.
Hate to say it, it's more filler than killer.
I agree.
With air quotes.
Oh.
More filler than killer.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And it's disappointing. Still a fun game, but that we haven't even talked about all the characters yet because there's so many.
I don't.
Manny
care.
sucks. The reporter sucks.
That it's hard and aggravating.
I appreciate that they're trying something new. It's not that new and it's not that interesting though. That's my problem. Additionally, his missions it's the least interesting because his missions are basically recording Richter and how he works, but at the same.
But his missions aren't even that. There's like one because actually
his missions definitely aren't that.
Yeah, none of them are.
His missions are him walking to the phone.
Yeah,
he's walking through the subway to get to the phone. What? Because his missions don't affect what happens in his story at all.
It's all basically the way I look at his story is. Every mission that he has essentially boils down to something akin to this. I need to go to the library. Oh no, there are gangsters in the library for some reason.
It's always that.
Yeah.
Except for the Abyss, which is I actually watched that.
I haven't yet.
Okay, well the Abyss is it's possibly even lore breaking of the game.
That sounds good.
So I don't, guys. Here's what it is. The Abyss is you're that guy.
Right.
You walk into this room where it turns out every one of those masked dudes are real people. And then you leave. And that's it.
Wait, you mean from the first game?
Basically.
Like Rasmus and Don Juan and...
Yeah, they're all sitting there hanging out, and they're like, you gotta go. And then you leave, and then there's a bunch of gangsters.
Really?
That's it.
That's lame.
It's really lame. And
Yeah.
what's the point of it? That's the secret mission that you get from doing something. And you're like, did I need this? I didn't need to know that they're... Because these are all supposed to be in people's head. Maybe there's a deeper meaning there, but...
Oh, that's another thing. We didn't even talk about this yet. I hate what they did with Richard in this game.
Oh, dude.
Well, guys, we didn't even talk about this. Okay, guys, so in the
Game
first...
meaning too.
Well, in the first game, there's... Every once in a while, Jacket has these nightmares where he's confronted by 3 people wearing masks. One's name is Don Juan. She's a lady wearing a horse mask.
She?
Don Juan's a lady.
Man, how would I know that? Okay, great.
There's one named Rasmus who's an owl. He's like a Russian. He's wearing like a Russian mobster suit. Mm-hmm. Don Juan is speculated by most people to represent Jacket's self-preservation.
His horse-like tendencies.
His horse-like tendencies. Rasmus is supposed to represent kind of like his hatred towards everyone else and
mice.
And mice. And then you have Richard, who dresses like Jacket and is wearing a rooster mask. And Richard's really cryptic. He gives you like kind of prophetic things that are going to happen later, but he's very vague about it. Again, adding to the vaguity of the game. Mm-hmm. Adding to the ambiguity. But then, so then that's that. It all feels contained as far as Jacket's concerned. Mm-hmm. And then in the second game, for some reason, everybody, with the exception of Beard, I think is it, everybody else has hallucinations about Jacket or Richard.
Because it's no longer Jacket's thing.
It's no longer Jacket's psychosis.
It's anyone who's have an interaction with 50 blessings has Richard. And the henchman too.
Which is dumb because like it really feels to me like going from having a psychotic break and like thinking about one thing to almost like a jigsaw, like the guy from Saw, like oh, if you say the word Richard backwards in the mirror 3 times, you'll be visited by the man in the rooster mask. And it's like, why? That's the part of the game that makes me the most furious.
Because here's what it is.
Furious George.
Guess what I'm going to say. Guess what it is.
Unnecessary?
No, it's what I said 100 times. It's the creator of the game saying, people like this.
Yeah. I did. Yeah, I 100%
people like
agree
the rooster.
There. Yeah, people found the rooster stood out. Throw in more roosters.
Like, why couldn't there be more Don Juan? Though there kind of is. Because technically Corey's just Don Juan, let's face it.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite fan?
Tony. Sorry, I had to think about that. I love Tony. Tony's my favorite.
Yeah,
even with his lack of weapons, I love Tony.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I think I probably like Ash and Alex the most. I do like the bear a lot.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I like all of them. I think the only reason I don't like Corey as much is because I don't think I use her correctly. Corey has a dodge guy. She has a roll dodge.
She is the roller mobster.
Yeah. So she has a roll dodge, and it can make her temporarily invincible. So I feel like I never used that correctly, and I feel that's why I didn't like her so much.
I don't. Did you really outwardly dislike her though? You
No.
Probably just don't care that much.
Yeah, she's my least favorite just because I never played as her correctly.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're all fun.
But Tony's a monster who kills everybody. And it's rad.
Yeah, he's got his own unique challenges, I would say. And this game really forces you to exploit a lot more stuff than you had to in 1. Like in 1, you could play.
This game is very reliant on baiting. It was not so much in 1.
Yeah, in 1 you could probably quick draw most people, honestly. Yeah. But in this game you have to bait people. There's more stuff you can't see. It's just executed more difficultly.
Also, it's purpose. Windows. The game. It's got more Windows than Windows 95. I'd say.
I got to be honest. Like a lot of people living in glass houses.
Yeah,
and that's fine. You know what? That's fine. We didn't even talk about all the stories yet. Okay, let's quick, guys.
We don't have to, as far as I'm concerned. Fans are worth talking about. Sun's worth talking about.
Sun's awesome.
Sun's worth talking about. Beard's worth talking about. Richter's worth talking about. Who gives a fuck about Jake?
Rickard or whatever.
Who gives a fuck about Jake?
Who cares about the fat American guy?
That's Jake.
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares about him? He's got a nail gun. That's cool.
That was rad.
Yeah, those missions are just for fun. Okay, that mission is specifically to flesh out something in 1 that didn't need to be fleshed out. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares why there's a mask here? Here's what happens. You find that mask and go, oh, I guess 50 blessings is sending other people.
Yeah,
Done.
that's it.
Done. You go, that fleshes it out perfectly in 1 by you going, this isn't only happening to me.
Yeah.
That's what it does. Accomplished. Mission accomplished. You don't care, nor do you need to see why this happened. You don't.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the worst mission in the game?
The worst mission, period?
Yeah.
Singles?
What's the mission you hated playing the most? The one that stands out in your head is, I didn't like this, or that it was the hardest? Because that might be 2 different things.
Well, hardest was probably Dead Alive. Or Deadhead.
Deadhead's probably the hardest mission. That's the one I probably had to do the most.
Yeah. I think I spent a lot of time on that one, just because there's so many enemies and there's so many parts of it.
Now, what did accomplishing that mission do?
You killed some dudes on a boat.
Oh, by the way, in case you're wondering, the story arc of what's his name?
Manny Pardo.
Manny Pardo. Here's a story progression. I'm looking for the mutilator. I was the mutilator, and you figured that out. No one's confused.
I was arrested, and now I've been shot to death.
Oh, by the way, he's not shot to death. He lives. Okay.
Oh, yeah, because that was just a dream sequence.
Why? Why did it need to be a dream sequence?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Oh,
you're this guy. You're this police. He's a dirty cop. He kills people all the time. He kills Tony. He's just going around killing people. He loves killing. You're like, this guy really likes killing. And then there's this mysterious Miami mutilator who you're looking for him or something, and then whatever.
Well, that's another thing, too, is that,
Who cares?
No, here's another problem, is that if you pay attention to the cutscenes where he's like investigating the Miami mutilator's crimes, they do little flashback scenes of him actually killing them while they're there.
So who cares?
It's like,
you
wow,
figured it out.
Way to take away any guesswork that might be involved.
Any non-moron would figure out that that's 100% what's going to happen anyway. Most telegraph thing on Earth, then what happens, you don't care, though I think it's done kind of interestingly. And then at the end, he has a dream sequence where he is basically becoming guilty about his crime. He goes to his police. Everyone's figured it out, and then he tries to escape a police office and dies. Then he wakes up from, which keen-eared listeners will remember. At the end of the game, everyone's blown up anyway. So
well,
who cares?
Here's I will contest one point. It's not the thing about the dream sequence because there's no arc. Because he's not even feeling guilty about his crimes. The only reason he has that nightmare is because he thinks he left his murder weapon at the scene.
Yeah. Who cares?
He's not even guilty. He doesn't feel guilty. He just is like, whoops, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. So there's nothing. There's nothing to care about. There's nothing. He's not interesting. It's not interesting. It's just hard missions for the sake of hard missions without masks for no reason.
Yeah.
Give me hard missions with masks. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I would do that all day. But instead, you can just give me challenge levels. I don't need it. I just don't need it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Which is my other problem, is that you're progressing through this game, and it's a long progression, and these stories are bite-sized things here, and the final levels aren't harder, nor does the Suns, whose is the final mission you play, specifically relevant to the entire story. So you're beating his story, and then you're like, oh, okay, that kind of relates to that, but I didn't really need this stuff before it to set it up.
Yeah, it's not like all the pieces coming together to a single whole where you're like, nailed it. No, it's a case of by the end of the game, you just got a squiggly tentacles of story that's left over that's not addressed, except for the fact that everybody gets nuked, which is stupid.
Yeah, because here's the deal. Like, the first thing...
Which is stupid.
Like, here's the actor. Done. Here's Manny Pardo. Done. Fans. Done. Although it kind of comes back later. But these things are all done.
Yeah.
The Sun's mission, which is the last mission in the game, is irrelevant to everyone but the fans. Manny Pardo's story doesn't affect his stuff.
Yeah, who cares?
Reporters doesn't affect his stuff. So why is this the last mission in the game? I'm right. By the way, am I wrong? Apocalypse is the last mission in the game for everyone. It's not like a secret mission.
Oh no, it's not. You're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Because what I will say is that I think I'm going to go back to the point you made before, or I think it was less a case of this is what I feel like will be a good ending of the game, and more a case of the guy who was making this game saying, I want a cool ending set piece. How can I do that?
Yeah.
And so he was like, I'm going to drug up the sun, and he's going to fight monster forms of the fans.
Which is a cool idea.
I thought that was honestly pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
it's probably one of the more interesting parts of the game.
Yeah. But
matter of fact, everything the Suns does is the most interesting part. I mean the Sun, not the Suns. I felt all of his missions were entertaining, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and interesting. He was a cool character.
He had a set goal that made sense.
Yeah, and you were on board the whole time. You're just like, okay, then the last mission is the most interesting on Earth, but it doesn't matter to anyone. And then you complete this mission, he goes off into heaven. But then, cut to other people randomly exploding.
Yeah.
What's the idea? Why did we need it? What was not closed before? What would happen? You would, if this nuclear bomb didn't explode, you would say Manny Pardo probably got caught.
Yeah.
Or even better, they just had him die. That would have been a no-brainer. Or kill himself.
Yeah.
What happened to the one guy? He gets out alive. It's great. This other guy, whatever. He drives away. All these things would have been fine by themselves and thought-provoking.
Yeah, because you don't know what happens to Jack at the end of the first game.
Oh, you actually do see him in 2. In 2, he's in jail.
Well, I know, but that's what I'm saying. There's the completion is just rush and shoot. Jacket shoots the guy. He walks on the balcony. Game's over.
Yeah.
His story's ended.
And you didn't need to know what happened to him.
Exactly.
It probably would have been better if they didn't show him in 2.
Yeah.
Because, it's just... I don't know why they made a lot of choices. And it's not so much that I'm angry, but I like talking about it.
I like discussing this. And it, like I said, we recommend this game. Guys, do play it, but like...
Absolutely.
You gotta... Yeah, I feel
but
like...
Am I missing something that makes these things all more relevant to each other? Is there a reason I needed to experience the reporters thing? Is there a reason I needed to experience Manny Pardo? Is there?
Yeah, I don't
really?
know. I got no answers for you, I'm afraid.
I don't think there is. 2 is very satisfying from a gameplay perspective, but when I finished that game, after I did one of the most interesting missions in the game, unlike 1, I was felt with a feeling of why
let downitude.
A feeling of nothing happened. My first thought was nothing happened in this game. I got more fleshing out of 1, which made it worse, and nothing happened in 2.
Did you get the Bar Broken Heroes? Did you watch that online?
I watched it online.
Yeah.
So that's just a fun cutscene.
I was just wondering.
It's neat. There's Easter eggs. 2 is still a well-made game. It's just as good. It's just as well made as 1, although it's less thought out of in building placements and stuff. There's more glitches in 2, as far as I can tell, because there's a specifically annoying glitch where enemies will kind of do a circle.
Yeah.
And then you can't hit them a lot, or enemies will get glitched in a door, and then you really can't hit them. Which any kind of glitch is unacceptable in this game because it can't be that hard to make.
Yeah.
Hate to say it, but that's just gameplay stuff. Still controls great. It doesn't add anything new to the formula for the player, which I said before.
Yeah.
It adds new enemies, not a lot, but for the most part, the only thing it gives you, the player, is restrictions, which is fine, but it's not really even with the restrictions. It's not like they added any kind of abilities. They didn't add any kind of new gameplay features, which they don't have to.
It didn't make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
The stuff that they cut out was not worthwhile. It doesn't pay off.
Yeah. I feel like it was just maybe you want to try something new. Also, a lot of people say, I'm sorry I keep going back to this. A lot of people say that the nuclear bomb at the end of 2 is just done so that Basically, it's like, there can't be a 3.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I also read that.
Just don't make a third one. Hey, idiot, no offense, don't make one. What are they going to do? Put a gun to your head? Just don't make a third one. Why ruin this?
You don't work for EA. You don't have to do anything.
Because here's the deal. Are you setting up this nuclear bomb with all this dumb Russian crap that was just an effing secret cutscene in the first game just so you can completely end it? Because that's dumb. You could have just said, I'm not doing a third one, not done any of this USSR garbage, and just had some concise stories. Would have been fine. Would have been like, hey, Hotline Miami side stories, like you said, little tight stories. You got your gameplay, you got some interesting stuff in the vein, you got more music, you got your fill, everyone's happy.
Guys, thanks for joining us here in sunny Miami. Spring break.
What, you don't want to do another hour of this? Guys, this is our longest RNG ever.
I think we've said all that needs to be said.
Guys, great game.
I'm glad I remember talking about Richard. That was important.
It is important. I think they're great games. I think the soundtrack's great. I think it got me into music that I probably wouldn't have normally listened to, which is very good, very important.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Guys, we're glad you stuck with us.
Guys, guess what? On the next thrilling episode of RNG.
Oh, God. We got to play this, too. I got to play it.
We're playing The Sunless Sea. Guys, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Sun's Vision here. We've got an exciting business opportunity for you.
Well, and for us.
Well, mostly for us.
Guys, we just started a Patreon. If you don't know what a Patreon is, it is a monthly subscription service?
Basically. Yeah. Basically what a Patreon is it's a way for fans, such as yourselves, to support the Suns on a regular monthly basis. There are varying amounts that you can give, all of which would be appreciated. Yeah. Any amount. And any amount is too much, quite frankly. But any amount goes a long way towards helping us. The show's not free, guys. We put a lot of effort in this stuff. There's hosting costs for the podcast. There's buying equipment and stuff like that. There's people we have to pay to make things run a little smoother. So any amount of money goes to help towards defraying those costs.
It's true. Don't feel obligated. Nothing is obligations, of course. We just figured we would do this because a lot of people want to help us. A lot of people comment about how they want to help. This would be a real way to help. With stuff like RNG and the Sun Sampler coming out, we've been realizing that we want to make better projects, and we're giving it all we can right now, but like, we can't afford to get new cameras at this time.
There's only so much that is.
Like, we can't afford to buy a better camera. We can't afford to get better lighting.
Now we just sound like we're poor.
Well, it's we want to make the best videos we can, and we need a little bit of help if you can give it,
Yeah.
We do have a bunch of cool goals. We have a bunch of cool rewards, by the way. That's the real thing. One specific reward that a lot of the people who watch would probably love, by the way, is a pretty cheap one. For $5 a month, you get access to all of our unlisted videos before they come out. What?
That's very neat.
So let's say...
That's what I would do if I didn't know.
Yeah. So, guys, here's the thing. We upload big blocks of videos. Like, we put out a video daily, but...
We put it like a week or two at a time.
So if you were like, man, I wish I could have watched more Skyrim, you almost get like a DVR of it. Mm-hmm. Like, you get a monthly thing, and you can watch them whenever you want then. It's all on the Patreon. Guys, go check it out. Thank you very much for donating, if you do.
Around somewhere, I'm sure.
And just thanks for watching. Thanks for helping.
Thanks for all the support.